Back in 1982, when I was getting started making video games, I self-published my first game not long after I began in 1982. It was called Alien Attack. I put a classified advert out in the Popular Computing Weekly for 1 week. The game was for the Atari 400. It was copied from a magazine, and then I made a few changes, added custom characters, changed the logic. That's how you get started. Anyway, I sold 0 copies, and that's when I learned my first lesson in marketing. I thought, well, let's try and make something a publisher will actually publish, and I started making game after game. And there was one I was pretty happy with. It was a game called Cumulus, and it was a blatant rip-off of a really cool Atari game that I liked the look of. I can't even remember the name. What was it? Stratos or something. Anyway, so I thought I was being clever calling it Cumulus, and I sent it around to a bunch of publishers. Then one by one, they turned it down. And with the last rejection, the one I really thought I had a chance with, I think it might have been Virgin, I threw the letter on the floor and flopped face down on my bed upstairs. My mum came upstairs, noticed that I was upset, and asked me what was wrong. And I said, "They turned me down again." And she said, "Well, make another one." And she's in hospital and has been for the last coming up to 2 weeks. And she's upset, confused, and we're not allowed to visit. And it's very difficult. Anyway, so fast forward several successful games later, I then make my first isometric game, which was obviously an homage to Night Law, and the game was called Chimera, and it did really well. Chimera in itself is a long story. I won't go into all of the details, but it's the one that stuck. It's the one that everybody seems to remember, and some of my favorite developers and other industry legends have told me just how much they enjoyed the original, and how it scared them because of the voice and the scream and the atmosphere and so on. So that's the one I've always kind of threatened to remake, and that's what I've been working on, and that's what I keep coming back to, because after Chimera things didn't go so well, and that again is a long story documented elsewhere. Yesterday was a bad day. I was unwell. I was upset about my mum. And then I broke my fast and I started to feel better. And I remembered something that my mum has said to me often. And I'll say it in Punjabi. Khara ho ja. And that means stand up. So I did. Last night I stood up. And in a matter of hours, I have a Chimera room. I decided not to bother with all of the fancy dithering and low res and all of that. Just thought, just forget it all. Just go back to basics. Just draw a scene. Get some blocks in there. And then, of course, I wondered about whether I should get some kind of animation, whether I should learn myself, whether I should do this or that. And you know how these things go, right? They're just distractions. In the end, I thought, I'll just use a block. I thought, let's have a look. Had a look on the asset store, found an absolutely perfect spaceman for the job. Chucked it in, worked first time. Made a few changes to the walking and the directions and so on, and started off with the character walking around the scene. which for me was the biggest breakthrough I've made in the remaking of this game in 35 years. And then I thought, okay, the thing that I really didn't like about the original was because of the isometric angle, the directions never matched up with what was going on the screen. Pet isometric hate, and rotate and move never solves it for me. So I thought, okay, let's get rid of the isometric, let's have it straight on, you know? And that's what I did. And then, of course, orthogonal controls worked perfectly, so I put in orthogonal controls and it all works exactly as I'd want it to work, and it still has the kind of look of the original Chimera. And I thought, okay, well, I've got that going, now what? So the next thing was, okay, well, I want to be able to transform some of the backgrounds. And I want to do that in a quite effective way. So, okay, how hard can visual effects graph be? So I took one of the Chimera blocks, the table, used the point cache tool, converted it into point cache, which I then fed into a visual effects graph shader and stuck in some rubbish red particle and a really placeholder gradient, and now I have a table kind of on fire, which I'm very happy with. So yeah, that is a big breakthrough. I'm very happy, and I've pushed past the sticking point, and I stood up and I made the next thing.